If you want to make 808s, this video is for you. So we're going to sound design in Serum so that this is a universal tutorial. Serum 2 is the one I'll use today, but the principles apply to Serum as well, the regular Serum. So when it comes to sound designing in 808, it's about the pitch of the sound. Okay, so we're starting at 0 here. Let's switch this to a sine wave. I'm using my MIDI controller to trigger the actual sound here. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand about an 808 is that it doesn't just have a decay curvature. Most people teach you guys to create a simple envelope that decays like this, but this is not an 808 in the current day. Okay, so what we need to do is, for one, we need to pitch this down. But before we even get to pitching it down, we need to have this sound go really fast. So let's go to a new envelope, give it a very short decay curvature. I'm going to exaggerate so you guys can hear. Drag this over top of your coarse pitch here. This is like your highest range of a pitch. If you do it over fine tune, that's the smallest range for the pitch, and semitone is like a medium, and then octave is just too blocky sounding. So we're going to do it over the coarse. Okay, so I think by default this is running through a reverb. Let's turn that off. Okay, so here's what the sound sounds like so far. This is basically what an 808 is. It's just that the pitch dive happens fast. So let's pull in the decay curvature. So now it has like a click in the beginning of the 808. This is not just the attack curvature of the amplitude, I should say. Now we need to make sure the 808 lands where we want to land. This is the hardest part of the 808, is understanding where you're actually landing. And this really requires a good ear. There's ways to monitor this in different ways, but I just like to go by ear. So I'm going to pull the octave down. Now at this point in the 808, most people, they start adding effects and doing all this stuff inside of Serum, and that's probably the last place you want to do anything. But if you did want to do anything inside of Serum, you can click on the warp mode, go to distortion, and try some soft clipping. This will kind of squarify the round shape, give you a couple more harmonics, but this still doesn't really give you that 808 sound. So here's the secret: is if you go to the pencil tool, we're going to start mapping out what's called the harmonic series. So the secret to a good 808 is to have the second and third harmonic present. Now we have a nice full sound. Without these, the 808 just doesn't have enough stuff in it. So second harmonic is the key, and then that third harmonic. So look at these like volume knobs, basically. Too much of it sounds whack. Okay. So I like to create like a fade like this. All right. And again, I don't really like to soft clip inside the 808. So I like to, do all the clipping outside of the 808. Since we're in Logic Pro, let's use some Logic Pro stuff. Firstly, we're going to go through something that creates saturation. So that could be a distortion. This is a good plugin here. We can go to the bottom here and mess with the mix level. And let me make this more aggressive so you guys can hear. So by default, it's very aggressive sounding. Let me turn it up. Especially if you mess with the pregame. Very bitey. So this is where we start adding the identity for the 808, different styles. So there's different modes here. This one's a little more aggressive. Let's pull this back. So I like a lot of these modes. This one's good for lower 808s, lower toned 808s that are just meant to play one note at a time. This one's used for stuff that we would play multiple notes. More like a pop sound there. And let's go back to Serum actually. Another thing here is people overlook what's called the hold parameter. So this is like, if you guys want more of a Zaytoven 808, you could turn up the hold parameter. And that just gives you a little more volume before the sound just fades all the way out. So instead of using the sustain to create the body of the 808, try using the hold parameter. Okay, so the distortion's a little heavy, so let's just pull it. I like it on this mode. Let's pull back the pregame. So from here, I'm going to move into a compressor. This compressor, I'm just going to show you what I would do. There's no right or wrong for this. Let's just switch the compressor mode because the first one's a little quiet. Switch it to soft clip. And here we're going to turn the threshold up. And I like to push the volume into the compressor and then turn the volume down out of the compressor. So the compressor is not compressing. We're adding what's called soft clipping. So it's adding more frequencies to the 808. So if we weren't, using distortion, here's where we started. And the compressor just adds. You can really, really push this thing. So if you want to kind of push it really hard, let's see how hard we can push this. So there's a certain point where it's pushing it too much. Okay, but this does have a sound. It's just very, very, very subtle for this video. So for that reason, we're going to combine it with the distortion. Now the distortion is a little heavy-handed, so let's pull back that mix level. So at this point, as you guys can hear, it's really about fine-tuning all these effects. Just messing with a bunch of knobs at this point. And now we get to define the characteristics of the 808. So we can always go back to the 808. So let's say it's not punchy enough. We can mess with the decay curvature over the pitch. Make sure we pull it in to a faster amount. Okay. Or we could go to the matrix and make the coarse pitch range wider. In this case, I would not mess with it. It sounds fine. You guys can make it more exaggerated like this. But again, when you go wide to the right, it goes wide to the left. So you have to, it's the hard part about creating 808s. You have to know where it lands. So that's a little too crunchy for me. So let's pull it back to where we had it. Okay, so we don't need too much pitch modulation there. Okay, so let's, what we can do is let's record this and then we're going to print it to audio and then reprocess the sound. So let's record this in. Let's hold the note. And let me see in Logic. I believe we could bounce in place. So let's right click and bounce in place. This will convert it to audio. Let's call this 808 distorted. We want a new track, one file, leave the original source. Yes, the audio tail, and then hit OK. So now we have it as an 808, an actual file. Let's mute the original. Let me turn off the metronome. So, if we click in here, this doesn't look like our standard 808s. Okay, it looks kind of like not beefy enough. Okay, so here's where post-processing comes into play. Now we added second and third harmonics. You guys don't need that many harmonics all the time. So if you could always go back and take out those second or the third harmonic, but the second harmonic will give it more body in the tone. Like I said, at this point, you're really thinking like a mixer more than a sound designer. So a couple things we could do is let's load this up into, how does this even load? Let's figure out how to put this in a sampler. All right, so if you right click on the track, it says convert to new sampler track. All right, so let's do that. And we want a regular sampler, not a drum machine designer. All right, so blah, 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 let's hit OK. Now we should be able to go inside the sampler and have a little bit more control. So let's see what we have here. We got to find an envelope. Okay, so we found the modulator section here, but let's figure out where. Okay, so this is a little convoluted. I thought this was going to load it up in a quick sample. Let me see if I can find the quick sampler. All right, so what I did basically real quick is I just right clicked, opened a software instrument, switched this to sampler, quick sampler, and I dragged the audio file just visually. I just dragged the audio file over top of it and sent it to the optimized mode. So now we have more control over the 808. I'm sure there's a faster way to do it than I just did it. But there's a couple characteristics about this 808 that we're missing is the punch in the beginning. So we may have to revisit some of the pitch. This is why I said making 808s, when you guys ask me how to do it, it's like I could show you, but doing it is not fun most of the time. So here we have the 808 and we have what's called a pitch envelope. So we can go to envelope depth. This controls similar to how we had the envelope over the coarse pitch. We could do the same thing here. And this should influence our, we've set a range. So that makes sense. Okay, so let's set this to an octave just so you guys can hear. Okay, I guess you guys couldn't hear it. It's very subtle, so I'm going to turn it up so you guys can actually hear what's going on. So without it, it's just kind of like boo, 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 like that. But with it, it's like, so it's a subtle knock. It's very, very subtle, but we're basically modulating over an octave. I'm going to exaggerate with this. So it goes like that. But you can only hear it for the sample length. So it goes like that. So we're doing that, but very fast. Okay, so we're talking milliseconds fast. So this is so fast, your ear probably can't even detect it. So anything below 20 milliseconds, the listener is not going to be able to perceive it. But without this, it doesn't add the knock. So here's with 4. Here's with it. So punch comes from pitch modulation. And also too, there's a filter here. There's a drive knob in the filter. And this is even more saturation on the sound here. Now we have a nice full 808 without overly doing too much to it. So I think just if we wanted to take it further, we could run it through like soft clippers and really push the transient. But pretty much how you make an 808. There's a lot of styles of 808s. Now, if you wanted to go crazy with it, we could run this through some kind of clipper of some sort. Let's go to compressor mode. Actually, let's run it through an expander. And I like to really push volume into either compressor. Now that has a soft clipper inside of it. I know I'm speaking a whole different language to people who are just not knowing what I'm talking about. But basically, we're doing the same technique, running it to a soft clipper or hard clip, but just pushing this. Now there's another plugin I love called Standard Clip. This thing is a beast. Now it does not come with Logic. You have to buy this, but it's very affordable. And put it on Soft Clip Pro mode and just turn this up a little bit. This thing just can make any bass sound crazy. Now, because this is so clean, we don't want to overly go crazy with it. Let me see if I can lower the ceiling here for the volume. So basically, if the 808 hits hard enough, here's before. Really not hearing the effect because it's not hitting that hard, but that's a great plugin. If you guys don't have built-in, expanders and compressors with soft clippers on them. So where do we start? Let's see where we started with our 808. Here's where we started. And here's where we are now. A little too compressed, okay, as far as, and not because the compressor, it's just a little too flat. So another mistake that we make is we make our sounds too linear. So this is where, again, like I said, we would just go in and start shaping the transient. And this can happen at the source. We can go inside of Serum and just turn off the whole parameter, for example, make it more of a decay curvature. There's a lot of reasons why. I don't want to bore you guys to tears. But I'm just showing you guys, that is the process of how to actually create an 808 that sounds like a radio-ready 808. A lot of steps involved here. So it's not the funnest thing to do every single track. That's why you should just buy sound packs. Like I design my own sound packs. Just go to busyworksbeats.com/blueprint. I have all my, I think it's 3,200 sounds in what's called the blueprint. So it's drum breaks, drum kits in there, a lot of drum kits. We have melodies in here, MIDI in here, hundreds of MIDI, couple multi-tracks, not a lot of them. That was just for one project actually. And then presets for mostly FL Studio stuff. So yeah, go to busyworksbeats.com/blueprint to learn more about that. But yeah, that's why, people have paid packs, because it takes a lot of effort to get a good 808. And then you have to find the note that sounds the best. And then you have to sample that note. And that has to be the one shot. So, designing 808's a lot to it. If you guys want to learn sound design, in its entirety, go to busyworksbeats.com and look for the sound design course. All right, y'all. Peace.